Well, I shall be quoting for this Robert Klapisch, since at that moment I still was in particle physics. And the first suggestion of accelerating heavy ions at the CERN protosynchrotron appeared in a workshop held at CERN in 1977. But this remained sub-threshold up to October 80, when a letter of intent was submitted by a GSI LBL collaboration to study, guess what, neon lead at 12 GeV per nucleon at the CERN PS. Five of the authors of this letter are now members of ALICE, and they are Reinhard Stock, who was the spokesperson of this letter of intent, Hans Gutbrod, John Harris, Andre Sandoval, and Renford. This letter of intent never materialized in an experiment. However, it evolved later in two big experiments at SPS, one Na35 and the other W80. In any case, this initiative started the heavy ion era at CERN. Okay? Now, but it took some time. It was not an easy thing to get to push this through. In December '82, there was a workshop at CERN on the future of fixed target physics. You know that LEP was going on, LHC was being thought about, so Klapisch organized a workshop. And there was a group called Nuclear Beams and Target, which was convened by Bill Willis, and the summary was given by Mike Albrow. Following this event, the SPS community started to take an interest in heavy ion physics. Myself was one of those. You know, I was full in particle physics. After December '82, I started to think seriously to experiment with heavy ions. Then a collaboration between CERN, GSI, and LBL started a pilot program to accelerate light ions, means oxygen and sulfur, to 200 GeV per nucleon. These beams became available in 1986 and 1987 respectively. So this means 6-7 years after the letter of intent. Lead beams came later, came in 1994 after an upgrade of the CERN accelerator complex, which was made by researchers from CERN, Czech Republic, France, Germany, India, Italy, Sweden, and Switzerland. Okay, as you know, the ALICE letter of intent was submitted in 1993. This means that there were not yet lead results, but we were still in the light ion phase. So the argument came from the light ion results. The atmosphere was of enthusiasm. Many nuclear and particle physics groups had joined in, and several leading personalities in both fields came on board. The light ion results were raising a considerable interest among theorists especially, In particular, the energy densities reached during the collision were appear to be interesting. And many of the suggested signatures for the onset of the quark-gluon plasma phase turned out to be experimentally accessible. So the results were interesting, and the experiment could be done. Moreover, significant technological advances were made in several detection techniques, like time projection chamber, silicon pixel microdetectors, and ring imaging Cherenkov. Hence, the strong motivation of the collaboration for planning LHC experiment. Now, most of the physicists involved in the SPS program form the backbone of the collaboration behind the ALICE letter of intent. And was obvious that we wanted to put in a letter of intent for LHC. Okay? So we started to work on it, and during the preparation of this letter, the collaboration had adopted the following organization. Jürgen Schukrath was the spokesperson, and Gutbrod the deputy. They were helped by an executive committee composed by Navak, Otterlund, QUERCIGH, Riccati, Safarik, Specht, and Stock. In 1994, I was elected chairman of the collaboration board, and I held that job up to 1998. It was a difficult period. It was the period when the collaboration had really to start off, to take off. And my mission, at least as I saw it, was, allow me to say it in French, faire ainsi que la mayonnaise prenne. And apparently it worked not too bad. As for my SPS physics, in that period, with my collaborators, we were making experiments at the omega spectrometer to study the production in heavy ion collisions of multi-strange baryon and antibaryons. The core of the experiment consisted of silicon pixel microdetectors, which were used there for the first time in a high-energy physics experiment. Now, these microdetectors now are used in several experiments at LEP and LHC. The answer is yes. Since 1980, several proposals, studies and proposals were put forward, and gradually they converged to the letter of intent setup, and later converged to the final setup. For a nice review of this development, I suggest the paper by Revol, which appeared on Physics Matters in January or November 2011. At the very beginning of the heavy ion adventure, the CERN management has been supportive of this. And in particular, personally, I remember the helpful attitude of Leon Vanove, then Robert Klapisch, Pierre Dariulla, Lorenzo Foa, and Luciano Maiani. That certainly, so thanks to those managers. Punto. As for the skepticism, Acceptic is a Greek name. So, a bit at the beginning there was in the 80s, yes. Friends could come along and say, progress in physics has always come from studying simple systems. Or you're not going to learn anything by throwing a potato sack onto another one. Of course, the potato sack was the nucleus. And so it went, but today, of course, there is no more skepticism. Everybody is convinced.